2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, which both, led to Denver, defensive touchdowns. They really didn't stand a chance against them.
Right. Well, I can speak on defense. I mean, if you translate this conversation over to college football, more or less, defense wins championships. If you go back and look at let's use Alabama because they're the most recent winner, and I'm from there. Roll Tide. But if you, sorry, I had to throw my plug in.
Yeah. Roll Tide.
But if you look at the defense that Alabama has sustained, more or less over the last decade, it's been one of the dominant defenses in the country every year in and year out. And I have to believe that leads to championships because Alabama has won 4 of the last 7 years. I mean, they do get great offensive players, and you have to score to win. I understand that. But if you can keep your opponent from scoring, you got an upper hand already in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. You need an offense that can rally behind your defense as well, which, neither team really saw for this Super Bowl at least. I'm kind of chalking it up to old age in Manning's case and kind of rookie jitters for Cam Newton. I expect great things from Newton in the future. It just wasn't his time.
There was a joke that I actually heard today, and apparently Cam Newton went off and decided he didn't want to go off and answer any questions at press conference and kind of brushed it off. And the joke going around was that it was the first time that day that Cam Newton managed not to get hit.
Considering he got sacked 6 times, I can agree with that joke. He got obliterated. His offensive line,
more or less, yes.
His offensive line could not keep anybody out. They could not protect him. They could not open themselves up for any play, which ultimately led to their downfall. It definitely was a defensive side of the game, but at the same point, his offense wasn't even trying.
No, and what about the fumble, and then he just kind of stared at the ball and didn't make an attempt to dive on it?
Are you talking about the first fumble or the second fumble?
I think it's the second one.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
The second one, if I believe, when I was watching that, I probably was thinking the same thing that he was, and that was that it was not a fumble, that it should not have been called a fumble, and therefore, why try to jump at something where you know it's going to be called an incomplete pass, which is what it should have been, realistically. Unfortunately,
I agree with you. However, there's been too many times in NFL where the call is not called correctly by the referees.
Shocker.
For example, if you throw a lateral pass and you thought it was forward, but it was lateral or behind you, then therefore it's game on for the defense to get it, right? A lot of times the receiver won't go after the ball because they thought it was in front of them, but when you go back and look at the tape and you look at the line of scrimmage, it's parallel, so it counts as a backwards pass.
I completely...
So I understand what you're saying, but as a professional, in the back of your mind, you have to think that worst case scenario, if they do call that a fumble, I need to get my ass on the ball.
I completely agree with you on that one. It was kind of stupid on his part, but at the same point, you kind of understand generally where he's coming from and why he didn't try to pounce on it.
Yeah.
It may have even been complete shock.
Or maybe he just didn't want to get hit again when he went down on the ball.
There is that, that theory as well, and I feel bad for the guy. The guy is honestly a very outstanding quarterback. He does usually read, his plays very well, and just this Super Bowl, it's like hitting a brick wall. Denver's always
an outstanding player. The Heisman Trophy winner out of the University of Auburn.
Yeah, and
one of the years that Alabama didn't win the championship, Auburn won it. So 5 of the last 7 have been all in the state of Alabama.
Yes, and I was looking forward to seeing, definitely some shine. Like, you look at the way he was outscoring, opponents in the 2 previous games. He pretty much manhandled them, all the way to the Super Bowl. And you kind of expected more of a defensive battle between the two for the Super Bowl, which obviously we got. And it was boring, but at the same point, you kind of were at the edge of your seat for most of the game. Expecting one huge blowout play,
right.
Not, 6 straight, fumbles or interceptions or, forgetting how to play a football game.
Exactly.
We're going to go for a quick music break, then we will return and talk about, more football. And we're going to continue this conversation. And here is the music. Hey guys, welcome back to the Capt Fizz Masked Guy show. We're back with Bama Slim. We're going to talk more football. He has a very interesting thing to bring up. Then we'll get into the halftime show and the controversy that surrounded it.
Yeah, and so I might actually have some input on that. Maybe not. I don't know.
So, Bama, you were talking about the white uniforms.
So Captain Fizz and the Masked Guy. Question for you. Do you guys believe that there's something to the white uniforms
in
the Super Bowl and the victories that come from the teams that wear the white uniforms? 10 of the last 11 Super Bowl victors have wore white uniforms.
I actually was not aware of that fact, but that's actually a very interesting one.
That is correct. And as a matter of fact, the last 4 times that the Broncos have worn the orange jersey, they're 0-4 in the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Now, maybe explain to us, people who don't actually understand the NFL version of football, exactly how do they determine who wears, the white jerseys and who wears the colored jerseys at the Super Bowl? Or do you have no idea as much as I do?
Not sure. It's usually denoted by the home team and the visiting team, but when it comes to a neutral field like the Super Bowl, I'm not exactly sure how they determine who gets to pick what uniforms.
I believe in that case it comes down to regular season records or how they finished in the season. At least I know in the CFL that's kind of how it goes. Obviously CFL and NFL are completely different, but
honestly, I just assumed it would be something like, whatever city they're in, whether it's in the AFC or the NFC, that's, that particular, conference's, representative would be wearing the home jerseys.
It is possible. It is generally, determined by the standings and, especially sometimes against each other, depending on how it is. Every team has played each other a certain amount of times. Whoever's won the most determines, who's the home team. I could be full of it. I usually am. But that's fine.
Most of the time you are. But you know what? Slim, continue. I want to hear this. Educate me, please.
Well, I do know that the last 4 times the designated home team got to choose the white, they have won 3 of the last 4. The white jersey seems to be the victory to the Super Bowl for whatever reason. I don't know, but that's just the way the numbers play out.
That's actually a very unique fact. I think that's definitely not something we recognize or you normally pay attention to on stats like that. So
Exactly.
basically, if a team wants to win, make sure you're the home team wearing white. I got
That's
nothing
what
else.
it seems like.
Yeah. White jerseys always win.
I guess in this, and maybe only this occasion, white is right.
Apparently. Now, are you into CFL as much as you are, say NFL or college football?
To be honest with you, the CFL in the South, it doesn't get very much publicity. Yeah, as far as cable viewing audience goes in the South, I can only pick up the Grey Cup.
Well, you pretty much see the best, one of the best games of the year. The Banjo Bowl is by far one of the best. I've been tossing. I've been tossing out an idea for the last, I'd say, year or so of, the NHL always has this, all-star game, the best of the best playing against each other. I would love to see an all-star game, the best of the CFL versus the best of the NFL. One game in Canada under CFL rules, one game in the States under NFL rules. What's your opinions on that one?
Well, I think that's an awesome idea. I think, however, that you're going to get a lot of penalties in both games because the rules are so much different. Well, I say so much. There's not a lot of difference, but, just the standard, like the men in motion. Like in the NFL, you're only allowed to have one man in motion at a time. You get one less down in the CFL. So that's different.
Well, I mean, I've heard
strategy-wise,
yeah,
you can't really.
I'm terrible at this. No, I've heard that on many occasions when American players come to play in the CFL, it takes them a little while to get used to the Canadian rule set. Just because there are, it may not seem like there's a lot of differences, but there are some. Going from 4 downs down to 3 downs in itself, completely changes the game.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Basically in the CFL, you're not afforded an extra running play or less. Is what it boils down to. The NFL can get an extra down, but basically what they use that down for is try to run the ball and get a few extra yards to make it easier on third down for you. That's the game plan, is to try to get to third and short in the NFL, whereas third down in the CFL, you're having to punt. So I think that's why they allow the receivers to go in motion, because it seems to be geared more of a passing game in the CFL and not so much of a run game. Am I wrong in that? Y'all watched more CFL than I have. I'm just speculating.
It is definitely a receiver's haven up in the CFL. We get more big names, receivers than we do running backs for, that main reason. But, every team has their major star running back that, really kind of really shines. The one that you might actually recognize down in the States is Wes Cates. He was very, very popular up here in Saskatchewan as one of the best running backs. Yes, one of the best.
One of the best.
I have heard of him.
Yeah,
right.
He's a household name.
Okay, you know what? So we're gonna move along, just so we can spend a couple of minutes on the controversy that is known as the halftime show.
All right, halftime show.
Before we mention the actual controversy, I'm going to say this. For the 50th, Super Bowl, it should have been a huge, huge affair. And the halftime show was lackluster and just, it didn't live up to what it should have been for a 50th, anniversary of the Super Bowl.
Why does that surprise you?
I agree with that. I was looking for more, fireworks, explosives, confetti, sparkles, something.
Yes.
It just seemed like Coldplay up on the stage singing.
Yeah.
And then others came out. It didn't seem like much of nothing to me.
You know, and they did this whole, you know, love, you know, thing, which was nice. But like, you wanted